All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our live session today. To make sure you're in the right place, this is the live session that's providing information for the Student Affairs Assessment Leaders open course on applying and leaving assessment in student affairs. It's hosted by the instructors for the course, and we'll introduce ourselves quickly. My name is Joe Levy. I'm by day serve as the Executive Director of Assessment and Accreditation at National Louis University, but then I also serve on the board of SAL, Student Affairs Assessment Leaders, as the open course manager, and am one of the instructors for the course. And I'll turn it over to Megan to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Megan Bell. It's great to see everyone here. Excited to get going again. I am currently serving as overseeing our division-wide assessment and evaluation for student affairs at Cal State Northridge up in LA. I was feeling bad for folks saying it's snowing because it's going to be 70 here today. And I also am currently serving on the SAL board with Joe in a new position, the VP of Community Engagement, in addition to serving as an instructor for the open course. So I'm going to pass it over to Greg.
Hello, everyone. My name is Greg King. I provide a little bit of a different bend. I do not work in higher ed currently. I am work in innovation, educational innovation, for an organization called NWEA, where I work on kind of how we use data and information to build better systems that help kids and specifically help provide more equity and access to students across education, kind of K through higher ed. So very excited to be a part of this course and to be talking about, but my background is in higher ed and higher ed education assessment.
Great. So we would love to hear from you all. I know some folks have been sharing in the chat, as well as some folks have shared they had audio issues, but it seems like that might be on an individual basis because I've gotten a lot of people saying they can hear fine. So it might be just individual settings. I will say the meeting, the way it's set up is if you log out and log back in, there's no waiting room. So don't feel like you're going to get locked out if you want to try like closing Zoom and coming back in. But yeah, feel free to put in the chat who you are, your background. We'd especially be interested to know your role, or if, even just like a simple, I'm working in assessment, I'm not working in assessment, I'm a faculty member, I'm a staff member, just to help us get an idea of who's in the audience. I will say that this course is one that, even though it's billed in the name towards student affairs, the content of it is pretty agnostic for assessment and anyone interested in assessment. We've had a lot of faculty members take the course and really appreciate it, both as introducing them to student affairs assessment, but also reinforcing just good assessment principles that they can apply in their work. So feel free to introduce yourselves. Happy to have you here. I want to let you all see what the rundown is going to be for today. Feel free to use the chat to ask questions throughout. We'll try and monitor that among the three of us. But we're going to quickly give an overview and history of the course, and then we're going to give a breakdown of the modules so you have an idea of what's covered. We're going to give a little bit of past course data, so you have an idea of what past course has looked like for past participants, and then share a little from our perspective of what we're excited about for the course and any tips or tricks we have, and then leave some time at the end for questions from you all. But like I said, feel free to pose questions as we go along. So the history of the course is that it was born out of a call for SAL, the Student Affairs Assessment Leaders, which, if you're not familiar, we're a nonprofit organization that provides support for assessment. And we pride ourselves on all of our activities being free, and we're volunteer run. And so around 2015, what we wanted to do was put together some common issues and common topics that we thought would be useful for almost like a packet to hand out to folks of, here's like an assessment playbook. And we pulled people together and we put together 7 or 8 different topics. And then when we had all those PDFs, we thought, well, what are we going to do with these? And thankfully at the time, I used my connections with Colorado State University. That's where I got my master's program. And so I reached out to some folks, and Greg too, and Megan has connections there too. But I reached out there because they already had a couple MOOCs, massive open online courses that they were running, and asked if they'd be interested in working with us to turn this into one. They were, and so then we spent 2016 to 2017 actually translating that content from PDFs into actual course content. And so we launched the first course in spring 2017, ran it for a couple of years. Another big milestone for the course was in 2020. We established with National Louis University the option that if you pass the course and enroll in their doctorate program, that you can get prior learning assessment credit for the course in place of some electives in that program. But yeah, the course has run 6 sections so far. It's run once a year. This is going to be the 7th course that we are running this year. The course structure itself is pretty similar across each module, but all the modules, the entire course is self-paced. So from day one, you can access everything. And if you have an abundance of free time or are just a go-getter, you can speed through the course as fast as you like. If you are late to the course, that's okay. You can catch up. Know that instructors are going to take it 1 week at a time, just for some consistency purposes. But we know that people's schedules, maybe you don't have dedicated time to fit this course in every single week. So we encourage you to move at the pace of that meets your needs. Each week has a discussion board. All the weeks except for the final one have a quiz. 2 of the modules have a written assignment, and we have video lectures and personal takes throughout. So just about everything's asynchronous. We have a few live session opportunities, and there's both required readings, but also then further learning readings. So for any of these topics, we offer content that we think is important for you to review for the given week. But if you want to dive deeper than what we cover in terms of the surface level information, please do. And we give you a ton of information of where to start. We also have some optional small groups, and I alluded live sessions that people will engage with each week. And these are the topics, but we'll go through each of these one by one as we go along. So we'll come back to this. But I do want to reiterate the course run is from February 6th through April 2nd. And so that is the official time the course is running. That is the window you have to complete assignments. And if you want to earn the course badge. But I will say that number one, enrollment's open a long time. You'll notice March 24th is actually the Friday of week 7, meaning that of this 8-week course, we keep enrollment open all the way through the 7th week, because first and foremost, this course is a resource. And so even if you don't know if you'll be able to dedicate time to this course, but are interested in it, we strongly encourage you to sign up, because we stand behind the value of this course and the materials. And even if you can't engage right now, we still think it's a wonderful resource. And one of the things I hate having to do is talk to somebody, say March 25th or in April, and saying, oh, when's the course running again? I'm saying not until next winter. So you kind of have one shot during the year to sign up. And so I strongly encourage you doing so, even if you can't engage with it right now, because you can always engage with it at your leisure. But if you do want to earn the badge, you need to engage with the course and complete everything by April 2nd. And so you might be wondering, well, what do I need to do to earn the badge? You need to earn 75% or better on each individual quiz. You get 3 attempts on the quizzes. all the materials in the course, and you need to earn a 75% or better on each of the written assignments. There's only one attempt at those, but there's a lot of examples provided specifically even for the writing assignments, and you can always reach out if you have any questions or are nervous about submitting those. And we provide the rubric so you know how you're being scored on it. But you do those things, you're in the badge. Okay. So I'm going to stop talking, I think, and turn it over to my fellow instructors to help overview some of the modules. But I'll check the chat and see if anybody has asked any questions while I was talking, or otherwise feel free to ask questions about anything I covered. I think Greg is going to take module 1.
Yes, sorry, I was reading through the chat, so there are no new questions. I'm excited to talk about the module 1, and so this is our beginning. This is kind of our foundation. You'll see each person, each one of the 3 of us, take on different modules, and so you'll hear from us, and you'll actually be able to kind of interact with us if we have live office hours that week, if you want to, and engage with us in that time. But there's, for each module, the first one, we really talk about what the difference between assessment, evaluation, and research are. You can see that we identify some of the key questions that we seek to answer through assessment, considerations of assessment methods to best inform practice, identify the importance of stakeholders in the assessment process, and then obviously identify elements of assessment culture within student affairs. This is one we will encourage, and we will continue to broaden this. If you look through the most of our participants that come to us are in the Division of Student Affairs and Higher Ed, but we also have a really growing number of people that are in academic affairs and higher education, and also not-for-profit. And so I'm happy to also talk about what assessment means within a not-for-profit or business type environment. And so, that's part of the reason why we have a variety of instructors in this class that have some different viewpoints. And also we're able to kind of lay the foundation in this first module and see what you need, and also kind of edit some of what we're able to talk about in future sessions as we go through this, so that it's more relevant to each person.
Hi again, I'm Megan Bell, for those of you joining late, and I am the lead instructor on module 2, which is about assessment planning. So this is one of my favorite modules, and if you are someone who likes to kind of have some structure and a roadmap, this module will appeal to you. We're going to talk about why it's critical to think through from start to finish the assessment process and all of the steps that come with a strong assessment plan. We're going to talk a little bit about methods, not too much, but just to have some common language. And then we hope that you will be thinking through how you would apply the steps of the assessment plan to your own institution, division, department, whatever your level or role is. So there'll be some opportunity to reflect on that. It's a great module. We have great resources in there, some checklists. Again, if you're kind of into that structure and organization and planning, there's a lot of resources, as well as some example assessment plans from various institutions. So module 3.
Thanks, Megan. Module 3, I take the lead on, and this one's all about coaching and consulting around assessment. So again, the notion of the course is providing resources, not just for people engaging in assessment, but leading assessment work. And so, that's, again, going back to the impetus of why we did this. There's a lot of information about how to do assessment, but not as much information about how to lead assessment or, provide coaching in assessment, especially if in some situations where that's a peer-to-peer basis or from one colleague to another. So one of the things we do in this module is we talk about differentiating learning outcomes from program outcomes. because that's certainly something, you have to start from the start in terms of identifying the actual learning that you're going to assess. And sometimes people mislabel or think about program outcomes instead of what the student's going to learn. So it's important to differentiate that, as well as recommend components and ways to talk about how to enhance learning outcome statements. But we also we build off of module 2 and talk about considerations for selecting appropriate methods and what you might think about or how to evaluate project design or approach. And then module 3 has one of the written assignments. And so one of the things that we do is we give you a chance we offer you a scenario, and then we ask you some questions of what you might say. And this is a really awesome activity. I enjoy reviewing the responses every year because one of the cool things about assessment is there aren't a lot of wrong ways to do it. So there's so many opportunities, and it's so great to see the breadth and depth and variety of ways people approach the work and bring their individual lens and values to the work. But we do offer some examples and some additional considerations and some mock assignments that you can review prior to actually doing the assignment. But the assignment itself is really putting you in that driver's seat of, okay, if I'm in this role and I'm presented with this person, this scenario, what would I say to them? What red flags pop up for me? What questions pop up for me? And I know it's something we talk about a lot in the course, and I try and calm people down because sometimes we have like some graduate students or some people who are like, well, I'm new to assessment, so what I don't know what to say. And it's like, well, what would you say, right? I mean, this is a great example of we're giving you the content, giving you examples, and here's your attempt in a safe space to say, well, if I were in this position, this is what I might do. And it's a great opportunity for you to get feedback. And then the discussion board becomes a space where people can share their experiences and talk more about it. So I really get excited about this module. And it certainly at least resonates with people because they know they have to submit the written assignment for it.
So where Joe gets really excited about his module, I think it leads right into a module I'm really excited about. And that's how do we go from coaching and making sure our coaching is really solid to aligning that coaching with what the institution, wherever our institution is, needs from us. And so this section is really about the practical alignment pieces of how do we take what we know how to do and how do we make sure that it's matching what's going on in the world around us, the KPIs that we need to talk about, or the kind of the thresholds that our institution needs to hear from us, leaders in our institution need to hear from us, students in our institution need to hear from us. These are things that are really important as we move forward in creating solid assessment plans that can actually change programs, improve upon programs, and continue to build into kind of our institution DNA. And this is how we kind of create that cycle, start creating that cycle of improvement and those plans to continue building different programs in our kind of environment. So I get really excited about this because we take kind of the first 3 modules and we start putting into practice of how we actually build it and make assessment work for institutions, for our students, or for whoever our stakeholders are, and really put into practice in this module.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. And I think it's also just, again, something about the course that when you're in the work and doing the work, you don't always have that time to pause and take a step back and think of how it aligns. And it's just another expectation then when you are leading the work, that's some of the stuff you're going to be asked to do is how what you're doing and the way you're doing it fitting in with larger strategy. And so, things keep rolling along nicely to then move into module 5, which is a little different than the other modules, but it really takes a pause to say, okay, regardless of where we're starting in assessment, whether it's assessment planning, assessment, method selection, the data collection, the analysis, reporting, taking action, in all this work, we have to think about the lens we're bringing to it, our mindsets. We have to think about the way we're approaching the work. And so we start off by talking about, you know, what a mental model is and what that looks like for you. But then we also really get into identifying strategies to mitigate bias, because we all have inherent biases, which, and you know, it's important to recognize biases can be kind of positively and negatively charged. You know, somebody can be positively biased in the sense of saying like every student is amazing, right? And that's the mental model and the approach they have, whereas other folks may have more negative biases and think certain students are have more potential than others. And so regardless of what those biases are, it's important to know what yours are and help uncover those. And this is really the module where we dig into diversity, equity, inclusion, considerations of equity in assessment work. So because that's been a hot topic, both in higher ed as well as assessment the past couple of years, there's a lot of information in here, a lot of modules, a lot of further learning connections. But this is also one that, again, we circle back and we have you apply it in one of the written assignments. And it's one that I also just really enjoy digging into. And it's so great to see the capacity people have in this space, as well as their passion and their intentions of being amazing educators really comes through. So it's really rewarding for me to engage here. And I think it's also then for folks who might be maybe new to that space, it provides them a new layer of consideration to the assessment work to think about as they continue moving through the other modules.
Yeah, so obviously with everything we talk about, there's a big question about what data do we use? How do we use those data? And this is my wheelhouse. This is where I get really jazzed because I'm super nerdy. And so this module, I hear a lot of good things about, and I hear that it's also like drinking from a fire hose. So we've tried to condense information and make it as general and as usable as possible and as practical as possible. There's worksheets in there on how to do different things in everything from Excel to Stata to Tableau to different, all sorts of different areas that we can use data to talk about our ideas and communicate what we're learning. But I like to boil this down to really what we're using the data for when we talk about this module is storytelling. Closing the loop is so important because we need to tell the story about why we're doing assessment and why the program or the thing we're assessing matters. So I like to tell people story without data doesn't last, and data without a story doesn't pull anybody into your conversation, right? We need a story, we need the data and the information, and we need those to blend together to help us say, here's what's happening. Here's what's happening at a general level, and here's what's happening to a student or a person or the person that we aim to impact. And so this module is really about how do we actually craft that story? How do we actually tell that story? Where do we find the data to tell that story? What data do we need to tell that story? And we try to get away, we try to push things away from just surveys. I know a lot of us really love surveys, and we try to say, what else can we do outside of surveys too? What can we get at the student perspective? How can we get the student's experience or the person who we want to impact's experience at their base level, the people most proximate to the problems we're seeking to solve with our programs. And so that's where we really focus in this section. It's a pretty heavy section in a lot of ways, but it's really exciting. It's kind of where we're building to. That's why it's kind of in this stage of kind of how do we use this information and where do we go to use it. So I love this section. I love talking about it, as you can see.
Greg, I loved that saying. Can you put it in the chat? Because I'm gonna steal it, but I'll give you credit for for the quote. So we're all the way to module 7. We'd be in towards the end of March by the time we get here. And this module is focused on building a strong culture of assessment, or culture of evidence, sometimes it's called. So while the other modules have a little bit more technical information, I like to think of this one focused more on building and sustaining relationships when you're doing assessment work. Because I really believe it's a relational process, even though we're talking about data and interpretation and analysis. Like at the end of the day, getting people motivated and excited to engage in assessment. We can have all the technical skills, but we need everyone on our campuses and our divisions to be thinking from an assessment lens. So how do you actually start changing culture? That's what we're going to talk about in this module. And there's a framework we're going to use, but within the framework, there are specific strategies that have been found to be successful to kind of moving a department, a division, or even the broader campus towards being more data informed and really building a stronger assessment culture. And again, through the discussion boards for this module, we'll be asking you to think about your own culture that you're working in right now and what strategies may be effective there. And then we're going to move to module 8, which is wrapping it all together. This module is our closing module, where we hopefully will be able to connect all these different pieces that we've learned, have you see the connections throughout them, throughout the content, and have you think about where you might still need some learning and engaging in professional development around assessment. So that'll be at the very end of March, like Joe said, in order to earn the badge. If you're interested in that, it'll be at the end of this module by April 2nd. I think that covers it. So any questions on any of the content throughout the modules? Otherwise, we have a few other pieces we wanted to cover, but at least now you have a preview of what you might be getting into by signing up.
Yeah. So wanted to share a little data about the modules. What would an assessment course be without assessment? So want to turn it to Greg to run through some of these stats in terms of some information we have from past participants.
Yeah, excited to do this. You have control still, right? So one of the things that we get really excited about is the fact that our students actually, once you start doing this work and you dive into it, folks tend to complete this at a fairly high rate. We're at the high edge of the typical range of MOOCs last year, although in 2020, you'll see we had a high rate of completion, almost double what you normally see with MOOCs. So we tend to be at the 15% of folks who start engaging actually finish all the way through, which is, like I said, pretty outstanding in terms of what the typical range for MOOCs is, what we'd expect. We're hoping to continue to build on that. We've added some new things that we're going to do to try to keep engagement really high. But one of the reasons that's so high is that we try to break this into communities. And so that you can find people that are in similar institutions, maybe even similar roles as yourself, and engage with them through this process. So you can build your network of people across the country to talk with, to learn from. We learn from you as much as you learn from us. And so those communities help build in ways for you to continue your engagement throughout the entire course. And like Joe said, if you miss a week, you can always go back. If you start a little late, you can kind of move at your own speed. But if you treat this as an 8-week kind of course, you are able to engage every week with people that are posting in those discussion boards, and we encourage you to do that to connect. The other thing that we want to kind of highlight is that is the next slide, Joe, or unless you have anything you want to add. If anybody on our team wants to add anything, let me know. The one thing that I would say is that throughout the kind of series of this course, the last 7 years of this course, something that Joe has been the consistent kind of hand that guides the wheel throughout everything. And one of the things that's really been impressive that drew both Meg and I to come and try to teach with Joe is and lead in this space is that we consistently see that there's a positive impact. So most of the time, 94% of students rate this course as a 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. That's pretty amazing to me because it means that we're consistently we're hitting something that's really important. The materials have a positive impact on people's lives, and those are all yours. You can download them, you can find them. Students agree that course activities had a positive impact. So we try to make this as relevant as possible. And the courses consistently over the years have positive reviews. And we take even the suggestions, even if they're really positive reviews, we ask for your feedback so that we can assess the course, so that we can make it better. So every year that I've been involved, every year that I've known Joe and Megan, we've consistently improved. We've added new things, we've added new elements so that we can make it better, so that we can add new features that folks have asked. Even the data management side, we've added new things in there so that we can, so it's more digestible and understandable. So that's something to think about with this course. Really positive feedback consistently. We hope to continue that this year. We'll try our best to make sure that streak continues of 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 stars for the course. Joe, the next one. I think you're going to talk about this one a little bit.
Yeah. So, we know that, while the previous indications are some quality measures and some satisfaction or some indirect learning, we do have good direct learning measures when we're looking at students' performance with quizzes. And overall people do really well. There were no averages below 93% on the quizzes. I think part of that is, one, people get multiple takes on the quizzes, as well as answers to the questions are in the content. So it's like an open book test and there's no time limit on the quizzes. So it's really just a knowledge check to help you make sure you're grasping some of the important concepts from the course. But it's important for us to look at that data and also see if there's anything that that looks funny in terms of a lot of students missing a certain question. We do review the stats for those surveys or for the quizzes as we go, and also too with both the written assignments as well. We intentionally look at that to not only see how people do overall. The threshold for success for these for module 3 assignment is you need a 23 out of 30 or higher, and the mean this past year was a 26.98, which is a 89.9%. The mode was actually a 30, meaning the most common score people got was a perfect. And it was similar for module 5. People needed an 18 or better out of 25, and the mean was 23, which is a 93%, and the mode was 25. So most people are passing these handedly well. But we do look at that information as well as break down the rubric scores to individual components to see if certain dimensions of the assignment are if students are struggling with that, and seeing how we can take that information to provide more resources, refine the assignment, refine the rubric as we go along. I do just want to pause, because I saw some stuff in the chat about the completion badge. And yes, so the badge itself, once you earn it, you acquire it through Badger, and Badger has all sorts of options for you to post and add it on various social media sites. And to Ambreen's question, the badge itself comes as like can come as a PDF, in addition to you being able to kind of package and share it on social media. So you get that as a PDF as well. And I know in the past there have been some folks who, for continuing education purposes or other whatever it might be, have needed some additional documentation, and that's something I'm always happy to talk to folks individually about that. But know that you do get a PDF, so it's something that can be downloaded and shared as a document, or printed out as a document, as well as something that you can share digitally through various platforms.
Cool.
All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Megan to share about some of the cool stuff we did to enhance.
Oh, Saved by the Bell, huh? Is that us? I suppose I'm Jessie Spano. Remember when she freaked out because she overcommitted herself? Meltdown. Are you Zach or Slater or Screech, Joe?
I don't know. Maybe Screech.
The principal. Just kidding.
Yeah, maybe the principal, Mr. Belvin.
Okay, so this year we spent the last few months of reviewing the feedback from last year's group of participants. And so some of the things that we've done is refreshed our readings and our resources. The course being 7 years old, there has been new resources, new tools, new scholarship that has evolved. So we've tried to add that in to each of the modules. We did review the quiz questions and make adjustments if we saw things that maybe were unclear for participants last year. Updated some of the videos, keeping those fresh. And the discussion boards are interesting with 1,000+ people, that can be a lot to manage with everyone in one discussion board. So certain modules, we've divided those down into various different groups. So there's some of them you will be asked to engage by institution type. And new this year, we're going to have in some of the modules, you engage by functional area, so that, if you're really interested in looking at assessment in residential life or in wellness, or other areas of the university academic affairs, we've created some smaller group discussion boards based on that. So we're going to try that this year. You'll have to let us know what you think. We have added throughout the course some personal take videos from people that have done the course in the past and speak to how they might use a particular concept or module in their work. We share our perspectives, but we also think it's important that you're hearing from a wide breadth of folks doing assessment work in student affairs. So there's some new videos there. And I think Joe mentioned this before, but we will each week be offering some drop-in office hours for folks who might want to engage with us or have further discussion or have questions as they go. So that'll be new this year as well. And then we'll have one more live session like this at the end of the course to debrief and wrap up.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to add to that, to make a connection, the field-based perspective piece, that's been one thing that's been really cool to add and is a nice enhancement to all the modules. Is certainly you get each of us to offer feedback and provide some videos for the modules, but also we've had past course participants who just really appreciated the content, or had an awesome story that they were willing to tell, and we want to include multiple voices because even the creation of this course involved upwards of 30 people from different institutions, and so that number goes even higher when we get other folks from different perspectives talking about how they're interpreting the content and applying it. And so that's one of the things we've been doing the past couple of years, is continuing to invite that participation, and we've had a number of folks willing to offer their time and have that be shared within the course. So we're excited to have added some more there.
It seems like maybe Viviana might have a question.
Yes, thank you, Megan. Thank you for hosting this session so that we can have a little bit more clarity about what the course is about. I have two questions just because I just finished a certificate and it said that it was self-paced, and at the end it was not really self-paced, and my whole team was taking the certificate and we were like, oh God, this is supposed to be self-paced, and was supposed to be self-paced, and it was not really. So a couple of questions just because of the experience that I'm bringing from that past certificate that we took. One is deadlines. So let's say that we are in module 4, right? And, you know, instructors are going through your modules, just as you said, you go week by week, and I'm in module 2 and you're in module 5 or module 6. What happens with the deadlines? Like Joe was saying that we have until April, until the end of the course to kind of submit things, but is it okay? Like, is the instructor going to be fine receiving things that can be quite delayed, whereas the instructor is going with, you know, their module and whatever they're doing in the week, wherever they are? That's my first question. And the second question has to do with discussion boards, because that was the other issue, that if somebody was late and we have some points, or we have a grade, or we have whatever it is that you are bringing in for those discussion boards, if you're not putting that comment when it is appropriate, because you're in module 4 and your discussion module 6, what happens with that as well? Do you lose those points, or how do you deal with those two things? Just again, because we didn't have the best of the experience with the self-paced format.
So, so it is truly self-paced in that you can work really ahead if you want, or you can be delayed. There aren't really points other than you do earn a score on the little quizzes and the assignments. So people have worked in all different ways that work best for them. We as instructors do kind of focus our energy week by week, but we accept assignments, and you can post to the discussion boards all the way till the end of the course. So for example, during week 2, I'm really engaging with the discussion board that week around assessment planning, but we do try to monitor all of the activity in the course. If you post early, you just won't get the benefit of maybe some of the interaction of the other participants. Similarly, if you post really late, same thing, but you can always read what everyone else has already read and benefit that way. So I would say that it is a course. It's structured as a course. There's content, learning outcomes, and things that we want you to learn. But we don't want it to be a super high pressure, intense thing where you feel like you might fail. This is really offered as a resource for our field. We just want as many people to be exposed to assessment content and the assessment discussions that are happening. So I don't want folks to stress out about grades, or, you know, if you haven't been in a course in a while, and you're kind of re-engaging in this kind of experience, you know, just know that we're here to support you, and it's really intended to be a learning and resource sharing experience. So Joe,
Thank you so
Greg,
much.
do you want to add?
No, I think you nailed it. You know, again, since we want the course to be a resource, and we know too that there's no way we could, you know, unless we offered the course just on a rolling basis all the time, there's no way we could ever offer it at the perfect time for the thousands of people who are interested in it. So because of that, that's one of the reasons why we do make it self-paced and have it designed the way it is, because we know that some people, maybe winter term is really busy for them. And so they sign up like right after conference season, and it's March, or they just hear about it during conferences. And so they sign up like that last week. You know, if they can get everything done, then great. We have other people who like January, still in February's a bit of a downtime, so they sign up and try and get it done early. And the one thing we just try and spell out, and we do it in the syllabus and we do it in like the course expectations, is exactly to your point, Viviana, like if somebody zooms ahead, good for them and they can complete and be done with the course, but it may be a pretty lonely experience for them because if everyone else is on week 1 and they're on week 8, they might not get a lot of engagement with their posts. The opposite is true too. If they join late, they may not get a bunch of people engaging with them on the discussion boards because those people did it weeks ago. But to Megan's point, as instructors, we really try, because we can always see when there's unread responses. So we always try, we focus on the week we're on, but then we try and go back and engage so that even if somebody's late, they can still get to know somebody read their post and get something out of it in that way. But yeah, there's no points taken off if you join late or anything like that. And the only hard deadline is that you have to do it all by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard. And yeah, we know that the grading is on a rolling basis, and we accept that for the benefit that it offers the students. So yeah, no hidden agenda or fine print here.
Thank you for the flexibility, guys.
Yep.
Okay, so as we've mentioned, we have lots of different folks in all different areas of the university and roles that participate in the course. So on an individual basis,
I'm good.
people have used the course to get more exposure about student affairs in general, specifically assessment. Many of the principles of good assessment apply not just to student affairs, but in all different environments and contexts. Some folks sign up multiple times, multiple years, just to get a refresh and keep learning and in touch with new resources. And as we mentioned, we're hoping that you might be able to make some connections with others in the field to also be a resource beyond just the instructors. Go to the next slide, Joe.
Yep.
The other opportunity that we're seeing more and more happen more and more with the course is groups of folks at institutions are taking it together and using it as a structured professional development opportunity. So I took the course the first time it was offered. And at that time, at a different institution, I was charged with starting our Student Affairs Assessment Initiative. So created a committee, and our committee took the course together and had some, I think every other week we met and just talked about what the content of the modules. And it really helped provide a shared language for us as we were getting started on this assessment initiative together. So if you have other folks that you need to strategically partner with, if you have some sort of learning community or committee, we've had some faculty have graduate students take it together. That is a way that the course can be used. And there is one handout in there of suggestions from past participants who have done something like that to make that successful. So it's free. There's not always a lot of free professional development opportunity for groups of folks. And it does really provide an opportunity for you to kind of level up, again, enhance that culture of assessment in your department or your division.
All right. I do want to share some excitement we have because we do not do this alone. This is certainly Student Affairs Assessment Leaders offers support to help put this on, but we also have a number of partners here. Enflux, Modern Campus, Weave, and the Assessment Network of New York have all offered support with us. And for anyone who's been seeing announcements about the course, you may have also then seen announcements of how we've been partnering with them to offer complimentary webinars or blogs or just other material that complements the course, and then within the course itself, you will have spaces dedicated for each of these entities, so you can learn more about them and see more of their resources that relate to assessment. But we were super excited to work with them and know that there's engagement with them kind of throughout the course. I promise you all won't get spammed by all these folks now, but by supporting us, they're getting some space time and some free promotion of their resources that you all can check into if you're interested.
So at this point, it's time to wrap up. We really appreciate, we're coming to the end of the hour, and we really appreciate you spending time with us or watching this video later if that's what you're doing. Few websites that's really important to know about. The SEL web pages and subpages, studentaffairsassessment.org, and then the online open courses where we can get tons of information about this, look at prior things, and the course link is available right where Joe just posted it in the chat. Joe, do you want to go to the next slide? Yeah, the course is running. The sign up is up and running. The course running February 6th through April 2nd. Registration is open until March 24th, as Joe mentioned. And there again is the link. I am happy. We are all happy to answer any questions that you have at this point. And just here's a resource. So fire away.
Yeah, we're happy to take questions. Thanks again to our sponsors. And like I said, we're promoting within the course, and all the places we're promoting the course, any of the partnered things we're doing with them. So you'll see more information about them as we go along, but happy in these final minutes to get any questions from anybody, as well as would also reinforce that, again, I know we have some pretty stellar completion rates, but we always tell people, first and foremost, the course is a resource. So even if you don't think you can complete it, sign up. And sometimes people, again, not to make our course not seem legit, but sometimes, like I think I got an email today from somebody who was like, I'm not going to be able to take the course, so can you please unenroll me? And I was like, I don't have to unenroll you. Like, if you're interested in the resource, just check it out whenever, right? But it's like they feel, again, like it's part of this certificate or this thing that they don't want to be associated with not completing, and that's not this at all. It is a wealth of a resource that's free, and if you signed up, it means you were at least vaguely interested. So unless you absolutely don't want your data associated with it, I can remove you, but we certainly encourage people, if you're at all interested, sign up so that you can engage whenever. I actually emailed with somebody yesterday who was telling me certain links in the course weren't working, and I was like, that's weird. Like, I could have sworn I fixed those things. They were in an old version of the course. They were actually in the very first version, the 2017 version, because I went through to look them up to see if they were, because I was like, the course isn't even open yet. How are they looking at links? So that's just a testament to you maintain access to the course well after it's over. So I strongly encourage people to, if you're at all interested, sign up, because it's just a great free resource. And we hope to see you in the class, but if you engage with it after the class is over, hope it's a helpful resource. It looks like we're just getting a lot of thanks in the chat. Don't see any lingering questions there.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
recorded, so the class is recorded, not live. Yes. And you don't need to log on at certain times, but we are piloting that office hours that we'll post.
Yeah, all the lectures are already recorded and you can access them whenever. And yeah, I don't think we're going to record the live sessions just because, or the office hours, just because people might not show up. so we're not going to record dead air, but anything lecture wise, we'll is already posted and accessible. And yeah, there's anything that is actually live or synchronous is completely optional and just meant as a supplement for the course.
And one thing to note about those is that we try to keep those the videos of the lectures pretty short, or we do multiple videos so that they're accessible. There's also there's also transcripts for every single one. So as a point of accessibility, you could also read the transcripts as well.
Yeah, Leslie, the course begins February 6th, and so you are not able to get into the course until then. But the point I was saying with the person I had emailed is they were logged into an old version of the course. And so once you're signed up for a course, you retain access to it indefinitely, but you can't access it till it opens. So yeah, once February 6th hits, you can access every part of the course. Like you can jump to the very end if you want. So that's what, again, it's truly self-paced, and you will retain access to it for years to come. Again, the example was somebody just this week was in their 2017 version of the course. So that was 7 years ago that they were digging into. But yeah, the course does not open. You won't be able to start anything until February 6th. All right. Well, thank you so much, folks, for being here. We're excited to have engaged with some of you today and can't wait to engage with you in the course. Wish you all a great rest of your week and hopefully talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Sounds like someone has a meeting that they need to go to.